What's up, and welcome back to the Feeling Blue podcast, your favorite New York Giants podcast, hosted by your guys, CP and Aaron. Obviously, we couldn't get our guy Chris. He had some technical difficulties right before this stream started, but we still got Rodney in the house. Want to salute the chat. Chris checking us out. Isaiah Simmons is going to be There's going to be a conversation surrounding Isaiah Simmons today, and he's on the thumbnail for a reason. Had a great performance, but we're here to recap the Giants' loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, you can see 33-25. Before we get into that, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button on the channel, bottom right-hand corner as you're watching this. Comment your thoughts and opinions surrounding this New York Giants team and everything surrounding this game that we're going to be talking about, and hit that thumbs up. Fellas, what's up? How are you doing? Rodney, nice to see you.
How's it
How's it
going?
going, buddy?
Wish it was, wish it was better, but what can you say? That it was a disappointing loss, but you know what? Honestly have to say this. I feel a lot more confident in what I saw from Tyrod Taylor in the second half and how this offense was. It's one of two things. Either we really aren't that bad, or the Eagles really aren't that good as they say they are. So you can pick and choose your battles with that one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. I think it's a mix of both. Aaron, what's up?
I thought we were gonna get it in the second half, but it looked like a totally different team with Tyrod. And I mean, Chris, you said it before that they should have went with Tyrod from the start when he was healthy. And I mean, he's starting against the Rams next week, but yeah, definitely. I think Tommy Cutlets is dead in a sense, not physically.
The Lynn Sanity run is over. We got a variety of topics to talk about today. Let's take a short little break and we'll be right back in. All right, we got Tyrod Taylor taking over midway through the game against the Philadelphia Eagles for Tommy DeVito. This was, I guess, a little bit of a shock to me. When I saw Tyrod Taylor out there, my first thought went, is Tommy DeVito hurt, right? He had a abysmal first half. He was coming off of a pretty much an abysmal game where he got injured against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. And I thought, what's wrong with Tommy DeVito? But it was a simple coaching change, or a simple change from the coach and Brian Daboll pulling the plug on Mr. Tommy Cutlets, like you said, Aaron. How did you guys react? Because honestly, I've been saying it on my Twitter account. I've been saying it to you all in the past Feeling Blue podcast episodes when we've been going live. The guy who gives the Giants the best chance at winning ball games, whether that's the goal or whether it isn't, is Tyrod Taylor. And I think Brian Daboll realizes that now. And I'm sure he realized that before as well, when the Giants were still competing right for that top 5 pick, which they're right back into the thick of things in terms of competing for that top 5 pick now, with these 2 losses. But it really isn't a mystery that Tyrod Taylor gives you the best chance at winning. So, Aaron, I'm going to start with you here. What were your immediate reactions, and how did you assess these quarterbacks? Because you can see on the screen here, both had 16 attempts in the game passing. One threw for 133 yards, another threw for 55 yards. It's insane. It's
I mean,
insane, and the performances were night and day. Tyrod Taylor kept the Giants in this ball game. What do you think?
I mean that deep ball at Darius Slayton, you're not going to see that from Tommy DeVito. I think if he was playing that play, wouldn't have happened. Uh, I mean, listen, I've even said it in the past too. Like Tyrod Taylor has been a starting quarterback in this league. He did it with Buffalo, brought him to the playoffs. He did it a little bit briefly for the Texans until he pulled his hamstring, and then a little bit in the Browns, but not really. But I mean, it just seemed like a more like well put together team. I think it seems like the players are kind of like on the Tommy Cutlets. I mean, yeah, they were supported at one point because they were winning, and then we saw in the Saints game, he kind of just fell apart. And it's even so with this offensive line. It's so weird. Like they gave up 6 sacks against the Saints, but only 1 with the Eagles. The Eagles are way better than the Saints. So it's just like I don't even know. But I think our best chance is with Tyrod. I think we can win the next 2 games. I mean, it showed that we can beat the Eagles. This is not a good Eagles team. I'll say it. I hope one of my friends is on here. But yeah, Eagles are not that good of a team. You're on a 3-game skid. They were going to be on 4. And it just looked like that we had the upper hand in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And I just want to shout out the chat here real quick. Obviously, we got Chris tuning in here. Isaiah Simmons is his guy. We got
Hope all's well,
Coach saying
coach.
sub gents. Salute, Coach. Appreciate you tuning in. We got Josh in the house here as well saying good evening, gents. Shout out Josh. Like I said, if you don't subscribe to these two gentlemen here, all of our links in the YouTubes are in the description down below. So make sure you're subscribing to everybody's channel first and foremost. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Now, Rodney, I'm going to get into your perspective here on Tommy DeVito. And I told you before we even started this live stream, in my assessment of Tommy DeVito's first half performance, it didn't look like he was confident in terms of letting that ball go for one reason or another. And when he had those open lanes to go ahead and run the ball up the gut, it just seemed like he was very hesitant in doing so. There was a couple of pretty much wide open passes that I saw that he had a perfect opportunity to go ahead and complete. And it's for some reason, there just seemed to be an inkling of doubt. And like you said, Aaron, this team did get behind Tommy DeVito. And I'm sure they were still behind Tommy DeVito even when he got pulled at halftime. But it just like the confidence that was wavering was the biggest telltale sign and the biggest red flag to me in that first half in terms of not hitting your reads that he was hitting the previous weeks before that Saints game and also not taking the running lanes when they were presented, right? So like I said, we got Fat Boy Fadeaway, my boy Darren from the Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports Podcast in the house as well. Shout out Darren, appreciate you tuning in. That's a great podcast on all sports over there. Make sure you're checking them out. And Chris says Eagles fans are like school on Saturday, no class. Absolutely agree with you. That's definitely a fact. So, Rodney, what'd you see with DeVito? I think you're on mute, Rodney.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
It wasn't the confident DeVito that we were seeing before. You know, I think it was that Washington game where he was just slinging it. He wasn't afraid to just throw the ball. The Saints game, for lack of a better lack of a better way of saying it, the offensive line stunk, and it kind of projected itself onto Tommy DeVito. But this game here, it was just again, I don't think he was that confidence just wasn't there. He wasn't taking the running lanes as you said, which if they're giving it to you, you might as well take it. Okay, 4 or 5 yards slide, live to see another day. So I I, I think putting in Tyrod Taylor, they should have did that in the Saints game. I understand the reason why he's coming off of an injury, and maybe they wanted to see how he would, turn out as far as being ready. But I didn't see any downside in it. If you didn't want to you don't want him to get hurt. Okay, so be it. It is what it is. But this game here, you should have started him. They should have started Tyrod Taylor immediately. You saw we've all seen what DeVito can do. We all see he's limited as a quarterback. He needs to develop more. Whether he's a backup for the rest of his career, who knows? But he needs to develop. Tyrod Taylor is a veteran. He knows how to play the game. He knows what to look for. He sees the things that DeVito isn't seeing right now. I didn't see any downside in starting Tyrod Taylor, and maybe just maybe the results may have been different, but he just needs to develop more. As far as I'm concerned, it's a good story, and
Yeah.
probably one of the best things that we had this season outside of you know everything else bad that has happened. So, I mean, it's a good story, but the kid needs to develop first and foremost. He needs to
Yeah.
develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, undrafted rookie quarterback. The storyline was there. The Italian heritage is there, right? Growing up in the New Jersey area, the family and their hype surrounding their son was there, right? And like you said, he just needs to develop into that quarterback that we saw for that stretch of period because when he was playing Washington, right? Like, I saw him make all the right reads, and why I always say that Tyrod Taylor's always gonna win you a ball game because he just has that pocket presence, and he has the ability to move around that pocket very comfortably and know when to escape it. when Tommy DeVito was playing his best ball, and we're saying this like he's been starting all season. He's like, the franchise quarterback, right? I mean, this guy's an undrafted rookie, and we're assessing him like he should be something more than an undrafted rookie. But at this point, like, it's 9-day difference. So I'm sure Brian Daboll saw the same thing and decided to pull the plug on that immediately. Now, we got 2 more games left in the season against the Rams, which I also agree with you. I think, we should win that game. I know the Rams are probably, they're definitely playoff contenders. They're probably going to make the playoffs at this rate, at this juncture. But I think that's a winnable ball game, to be honest with you, if we have Tyrod Taylor under center. That Saints game, same thing. If we have Tyrod Taylor under center, I think things go a different way. And we were still in playoff contention when the Saints game happened. So, like I said, it's just something where it's a tale of two tapes here. We had that little insanity run for 3 games with Tommy DeVito. There was an obvious change that was needed, and that the coach made a decision. So, you're out of the playoffs. Josh says DeVito signed for next year. Tyrod is out after next year. Why not just run it with Tommy? He's countering that point. You develop him now. Live play, not from the bench. Josh makes a very valiant point here as well. Like, I don't see Tyrod Taylor coming back to this team serving as either the backup again, right, or serving as a third string quarterback, because we all know that the NFL has allowed that rule to have 3 quarterbacks on your roster, right? So, Tyrod's not going to be here next year. Aaron, I'll let you take this one and answer this question because Josh makes a great point here. Why not just stick with Tommy the rest of the way, given now that we are out of the playoffs officially?
Well, first, hopefully, Darren from Fatboy Fadeaway Sports is on here because I said yesterday on their live stream that Tyrod should go over to Black Air Force One Antonio Pierce's squad for the Raiders to go start for him. But I don't know. It's kind of weird because, like you just said, we're out of the playoffs. I'm not sure if Brian Daboll thinks that his job's going to be gone just because of the recent history of the last 3 coaches. It's like 2 years and they're out. I don't know if he's trying to make it like, oh, look, it's Mike Kafka's fault. Like we're not producing points. Like I'm not sure why they cut DeVito out in the Eagles game, and they're just not going to keep playing the rest of the season. It's kind of just like head scratching what this organization's doing, and it just feels like it's very like mismanaged. And like the guy that we had is out of here, but it really just shows how bad our situation was with him. I don't like to say him because he's the worst GM ever in sports, but yeah, I don't know. It's just very head scratching why we just don't ride out with DeVito.
Yeah, and and Darren is in the chat.
He did not say that last night though, so
yeah, absolutely. You know what it signifies to me, and I'm going to take a little bit of a wild guess here because Brian Daboll loves to keep the cards in his pocket and not reveal it to the media. And we'll talk about the coaching here because a lot of people are after Brian Daboll's neck for one reason or another. Within this fan base on Twitter, etc. I'm sure you all have been seeing that discourse. But I think this signifies to me that Brian Daboll might have never wanted Tommy DeVito to go in there. I don't think he ever wanted Tommy DeVito to remain the starter. But the optics on it and the steam that this got from the media might have forced his hand to it. I know that's maybe a lazy take, but that's really the only thing that I can think of here is that, at this point, Josh is absolutely correct in his comment. You're out of the playoffs. Why not just roll with the young kid to see what he has? I mean, 3 weeks, 4 weeks is not enough to evaluate a guy like that, especially not a guy that showed you flashes of brilliance, right? So, absolutely, Rodney, I hear what you're saying. And I firmly do believe that Tyrod Taylor is absolutely clearing away the best quarterback. And that's obviously the case because of the experience factor. But why not just call a lost season and stick with that young guy for the rest of the way? I honestly quite simply can't understand that myself. So like I said, that's my only reason as to why Tommy DeVito's out now is that Brian Daboll really never wanted him to. And who knows? I mean, I don't want to make this a media thing, and it's great that Tommy DeVito had that support surrounding him, but maybe someone in the organization didn't like all the media attention Tommy DeVito was getting, whether it was deserved or not. I got no idea. I don't want to put an answer to it. I hope that's not the reason because that'd be a pretty stupid reason in my book. But there's a lot of factors at play here, so it's hard to at least put a finger on it concretely, especially when Brian Dable is not going to give you the clear answer. Um, what's up? What's up? We got Svi in here. I believe that's how you pronounce your name, but shout out to you. I appreciate you tuning in. This is such a
That's just
cool
Miz. Just call him just Miz. That's it.
Miz. Okay, cool. Miz, what up, Miz? I appreciate you tuning in. I was wondering how to say the name there, but I appreciate you tuning in. This is cool that X has now the feature to say, get your comments in there from the X platform onto StreamYard. So that's dope. Appreciate you checking out the stream. Um, like I said, the quarterback situation is the quarterback situation. We'll go ahead and move on to the next topic because Tyrod Taylor's a starter now. It's as head scratching as it is. If the Giants want to win ball games still and give themselves the best chance to win these ball games in the last two, Rodney, I know you don't like the whole tanking situation in that aspect. I quite
Hell
frankly
no.
don't. I know you don't. I know you don't. And that and,
Hell
and
no.
Tyrod Taylor gives you the best shot to win. So I know you're happy about that. But let's take a look at some individual defensive performances here because if Chris still is in the chat, I know he's gonna like this one. His guy, number 19 here, Isaiah Simmons, balled out. And this is a guy that's on a contract year. And he came over. The Giants took a chance on him in terms of the sample size that we saw in college and where he was drafted at. Obviously, a guy that the Giants fan base, not only, but the organization highly covered coming out of the draft out of Clemson years ago. It didn't come to fruition. He went to Arizona and they mismanaged him. It feels like Isaiah Simmons is comfortable in this Giants system. He's on a free agent. He's going to be a free agent this offseason. Obviously, I think the play here is to extend him depending on how the contract talks go and how he's performed this season. But I just want to take a minute to just give him his flowers, right? A guy that a lot of people were having discussions surrounding, a lot of people calling him a bust when he was still with Arizona. Got a chance to come over with the Giants, a change of scenery, and he is a very versatile player. Very versatile. He was all over the place on the defensive side of the ball, batting passes, and we saw him on the special teams unit make a great play to open up that second half and pushing the blocker into the returner to force the fumble. And I believe he also recovered the fumble himself, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
believe he did. Yeah.
absolute talent here, and I really hope the Giants do find a way to bring him back. And obviously, you see here number 25, Deontay Banks, stud. I mean, he held AJ Brown in their matchup, I believe, to only 17 yards, something like that. He
Yeah, and
was
then I think
absolutely
he got
phenomenal.
hurt, and then of course AJ Brown went off when Deontay Banks
Yeah,
was off
after
of
that.
him.
Well, right, exactly. But I think during their matchups, I believe that's what it was. Um, We got Tudo in the house here as well, shouting out his
Yeah.
guys here, Hit Squad, Coach Ed and Rodney. But yeah, no, like I said, Isaiah Simmons and Deontay Banks absolutely balled out. Bobby Okereke obviously leading the stat sheet again in total tackles for this team. Bobby Okereke, I mean, outside of that bogus delay of game call that the Eagles got bailed out on when Jalen Hurts decided to stay in bounds as time expired in the first half, Bobby Okereke has been far and away I think the best Giants defensive player, maybe outside of Dexter Lawrence. Absolutely. And you could probably even make the case that he's been the best, to be honest with you, with the actual stats that he's been producing while Dexter Lawrence is getting double teamed. So let me know what you guys saw with this defense. Obviously, we have to talk about the missed tackles as well. That was an ugly facet of this game. The missed tackling continued to plague this team. And but the defensive performances on an individual basis were something to make note of. Simmons played better than McFadden last game as well, Chris is saying. And he set up that Saquon TD with that forced fumble. Absolutely a guy that Chris and I can definitely get behind. I'm sure you all as well. So let me know what you thought about the defense, Rodney. We're going to start with you first.
I'm not gonna sit there and say that they did a fantastic job because they didn't, especially with the missed tackles. That is something that it's played the Giants off and on this whole entire season. You know, as far as Isaiah Simmons go, look, I'm going to go on here and say this. I wanted him to get drafted by the Giants the season that, when he was it the 2021 season. We got Andrew Thomas. I'm not say that was a bad pick. We needed a left tackle. We got a left tackle, and the fact that he was available and they went ahead and they got him from Arizona. I mean, that was just like music to my ears when I heard that it happened. I don't think he's being utilized correctly. That's my only thing with that. But in the sense of where he is now, I didn't expect him to play as well as has been playing, even though he's coming in mainly on just third down situations. But the Monday night game, he really showed out. And I truly, truly hope that somehow, some way, they're able to get some sort of contract squared away to where he's here, because I think he's very beneficial as far as the system, Wing system. Now, the caveat with that is whether or not Wink is still here and how that's going to play in to this kid's development. You already have him in a system, and he's pretty much kind of tailored to this system where he could be that hybrid back safety and even rush the passer on, you know, the plays that you need him to do so. So it's going to be quite interesting in the offseason to see exactly what happens. I know we're going to talk about Dable and the coaching staff later on, but as far as individual, Deontay Banks is still going to show up. I think he's a beast back there. That's what we were looking for as far as a number one cornerback, shutdown corner. I'm hoping that he's doing all right. Hopefully he'll be able to play in the Rams game, but I'm liking everything that I've seen from him so far this entire season, and I think it's only going to get better. No, hands down, it's going to get better. Okay. Now I'll say this: I wanted him. I'm not saying it like that, but I wanted this team to be able to get him last season, based off of the game that he had when we had against Indianapolis, and he was like the only one that came to show up to the game. He was pretty much the only one. I mean, he was sideline to sideline. He gave that hard hit to Jones before, I guess, on the scoring touchdown last season. And what he's done for this team now, that's the middle linebacker that we need. We need that middle linebacker that can hit those running lanes, get to those running lanes. I mean, he's a terrific captain as far as getting the team in position to, make the play. Him and McFadden are a good duo. I'm not saying McFadden is the best, but they're a good duo. They play very well together. So, I mean, all in all, like I said, it wasn't the best, but as far as individual performances, I got to get hands down. Definitely Deontay Banks and definitely Simmons showed out.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you. And like Chris is saying here, Wink should be using or could deploy a three linebacker system, because I really think Bobby O is that pure linebacker, but you do have very good versatility in terms of utilizing Simmons and McFadden, whether it's in that linebacking core or on special teams. And we'll talk about this comment here in a second, about Dable being potentially worried about his job. That we'll get to here in a second, because I'm not sure what the discourse is surrounding that, but I definitely have my 2 cents on that, so we'll get into that. And, yeah, like I said, that's why to your point, Rodney, that's why I said individual performances, because as a whole, as a unit, it was pretty ugly, to be honest with you. It was definitely ugly, and that definitely should be noted. So I put individual on here for a reason. But Aaron, tell me what's up with the defense. What'd you see?
I just wanted to know what's up with Xavier McKinney. Does he want to be on this team? Does he not want to be on? He has a career high right now in tackles. Like, he's balling out the last 5-6 weeks. Now I'm confident that we need to re-sign him, because I saw Dame Belton with those missed tackles, or sorry, arm tackles, and I'm like, oh geez, we definitely need to keep Xavier if this is the guy that's going to replace him next year. So I mean, shout out to Xavier McKinney. I mean, Isaiah Simmons, oh boy, I think we need to keep Wink Martindale like next year and going forward, because the only way we're going to get this defensive unit even better. Listen, those Raven teams were good, and they didn't have I think theirs was more like linebacker-ish. They didn't really have too many good linebackers. I mean, they had like Patrick Queen and all them drafted, but I think Wink has something going on here. We need to keep him because our defensive pieces really aren't that bad. They're starting to gel a little bit better. Obviously, Deonte Banks was doing good against AJ Brown until he got hurt, and then of course AJ Brown was cooking everyone. But I mean, besides the missed tackles, I felt like certain players are doing good. I mean, Dory Jackson had the pick, but he's not going to be back next year. Obviously, we all know that. I think he even doesn't want to be back. And Bobby Okereke is getting real close to his career high from last year. I think he has 132 tackles. He's definitely the Antonio Pierce, I don't want to say Harry Carson, but like that good middle linebacker that we need to establish this defense to what it was back in the Tom Coughlin era, or dare I say the Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells era. But yeah, I mean, Xavier McKinney is my big X factor in defensive performances. The guy's showing out every week so far, and my question is just like, does he want to come back or not? I'm not sure.
And something about Bobby O too, and the Xavier McKinney talks are what they are. The contract extensions looming. You can make an argument on both sides of the fence in terms of keeping him or not, right? But on a team that misses tackles, especially after contact and allowed so many yards after contact, Bobby O is a guy that lays hard hits and is not afraid to be physical at the line. So many times I see Bobby O stop a guy in his tracks, and the Giants just simply need more of that physicality on the defensive side of the ball and just not continue to arm tackle. Like, I just see so much of that, and it aggravates me to no end because that is where games, especially close games, are won or lost on the defensive side of the ball, is how many yards after not only the catch, but after contact that the opposing team is getting. And Bobby O does a great job on that. And this is a funny comment. Tuto saying, CPNY, please suit us up in the Giants jersey and we'll guarantee we never miss any tackles ever. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. We'll guarantee no O-lines or QBs will survive our tackles and won't be able to walk out of the pitch on their own power. Yeah, like I said, I mean, if I could suit up and if I could suit up in the Giants jersey and give my all, I definitely would. But these are what these guys get paid to do, and it's a shame that they are not tackling with as much urgency as we would like. And like I said, we are fans at the end of the day, but these guys have a job to do. And in terms of the tackling department, they just haven't been doing it. And that's just simple. What up, Miz? What up, Miz? Appreciate you checking in. Definitely subscribe to everybody's channels down below if you haven't already, but I appreciate you checking in, and make sure to drop those comments on this team. We'll get to everyone's comments. We got Darius in the house.
Yeah.
What up, Darius? Appreciate you. My guy Darius, always supporting when he can. Appreciate you hitting the chat, Darius. Always appreciated. Let's get into some of and the defensive performances when we can get into a little bit, even with the takeaways, but let's get into some of our overall takeaways on this game. Just thinking about this game as a collective total. And like I said in the last stream that we did when Hit Squad was up here and he didn't have any power outages, but shout out to Hit Squad though. Things do happen. Make sure to subscribe and follow his channel as well. Show our guys some love there. I put these graphics of these players up for a reason, right? I put them in there deliberately to have a discourse and a discussion about them. I did it on defense for Simmons and Deonte Banks. And as my takeaways here for this game, I put Aziz and I put Darren Waller up on here. Now, Aziz got a very big workload in this game, right? He got a very big bulk of snaps in this game. I think he only had one tackle in this game, and his presence wasn't really felt as much as I would like. And Darren Waller, oh man, Darren Waller. I'm going to let you guys sound off on Darren Waller here at first, because this is a guy who the Giants brought in to be that guy, right? For any quarterback that was under center. Now, I understand that the offensive game plan is the offensive game plan. I understand that basically him getting targets is not something that he can help, right? Get separation, get open, and get a target when the quarterback's looking your way. But I'm not sure I'm confident at this juncture, and it's sad to say going into week 17 that I'm confident in Darren Waller's ability to make those tough catches and to make those catches in traffic that we're all accustomed to seeing out of Darren Waller when he's able to stay on the field. Obviously, coming back injuries plaguing him once more this season, I believe with that hammy or that leg. I, I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know where we go. I don't know if the Giants are going to keep him. I don't know if they're going to try to move him and flip him in the offseason because that's also certainly a route the Giants can take. Shout out to Talking Giants and their Twitter account. They ran a poll about Darren Waller and what the fan base would like the Giants to do in the tight end department because Daniel Bellinger had himself a solid game. Daniel Bellinger's a guy that is a decent blocker, not an elite blocker out of the tight end position, but he's a decent blocker, a better blocker than Darren Waller. But he's also makes those catches. And I'm probably a little bit more confident in Darren Waller's or in Daniel Bellinger's ability to hold on to the ball more so than Darren Waller right now. And that should not be the case. Far and away, the better player is Darren Waller. Far and away. So to have this type of discourse and come on this podcast surrounding this Darren Waller topic is shameful for me because I don't want to have this discourse surrounding him. I wanted him, and Aaron, you've been doing this podcast with me from the start, how much we were raving about Darren Waller. When we saw that one and only preseason game he went in and saw that 2 tight end set with Daniel Bellinger and Darren Waller and how they were working that opening drive, also happened to be the only drive that Daniel Jones, I believe, got in the preseason. We were ecstatic. This season has not brought those results. So, Aaron, let me know what your takeaways were of this game, and maybe not just limited to these two, but these two definitely I wanted to have a discussion around at least.
Yeah, with Darren Waller, I mean, he's had worse quarterbacks than what he has on the Giants. I mean, Darren's saying it right here. Darren Waller seems like he has lost the speed that he had with the Raiders. Every time Waller gets hit, he's like, yeah, exactly. I mean, right now, I just looked at it 6 hours ago. He didn't do the walkthrough today because apparently he has now a knee issue. So I don't know what's going on with this guy, but I mean, his best game was against the Commanders when he had the 98 yards and the touch. I mean, it's a good thing we have it was a good thing it's a good thing we have Daniel Bellinger because he's a sufficient tight end too. But I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe we got him too late because he's only had 2 1,000-yard seasons and was with Derek Carr. And that's interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think we can move him just because of how his contract is and who would take him. That's the question. And as far as Azeez, I've been saying it. We got to cut that guy loose next year in the offseason, this year in the offseason, because he can't stay healthy. He's always on the injury report. When he does play, he's either night and day. What was his best game against the Packers when he had that half sack with Dexter Lawrence? That's kind of really it. I mean, he doesn't really do anything. It doesn't make that big of an impact that we thought he would when he was at Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And like I said, the comment section is getting interesting. I want to make sure to shout out everybody in the chat. A lot of interesting comments here coming from Miz. Jordan Renan reporting today on ESPN that he believes not only Shane is drafting a quarterback, but definitely willing to trade up for one. Obviously, he's been to 7 of May's games personally, and that's all he needs to know in terms of who Joe Shane is targeting in this draft. Waller was playing well before the injury. I definitely agree with you. He was, but it's just like that injury factor. And that directly relates into Darren's comment here about losing that speed and not being able to get up for what it seems after every hit that he takes, especially if it's a bigger hit. We got a lot of comments here. We got Shane and Dable have a type of QB they like, and May is definitely that QB that they would want. I see a mix of Allen and Herbert in his game. That's very high lefty expectations and sort of comparisons to draw him up to. I like Drake May myself. I'm gonna have to do a lot more research on him because when we were sort of having those discussions weeks ago, I was definitely tuning in to those games and Drake May while he was playing on Saturdays. But I'm gonna have to rewatch because obviously I wasn't in tune. Not as in tune with college football as I'd like to be over the last month or so. So we'll definitely have to go back and we'll be doing a lot of draft coverage and we'll definitely do our research and do our draft coverage and due diligence there as well. So let's see here. I believe Miz is talking about shutting down Darren Waller for the season, right? I believe that's what he's talking about. Yeah, I mean, you might as well at this point. Absolutely. Let's see here. Yeah, Chris, absolutely. The drop on the veto pass was inexcusable. Absolutely. It can't happen. I mean, it cannot happen from your star player, a guy like I said at the beginning of the spiel here, a guy that the Giants brought in to be that dude. When that dude, a guy of that caliber, has been missing on this Giants team for quite some time. Like they brought him in to be that. And this is like they brought in Kenny Galladay to be that dude couple years ago, and we all know how that turned out. Like, I just want the Giants to go after an offensive weapon, whether it's via trade or whether it's via free agency. And I need that player to live up to expectations because I'm getting antsy at this point. It's getting to that point where I'm getting antsy. And I'm not going to bring in Jalen Hyatt's name to this conversation because he's a rookie. And we all know the skill set that he possesses just happens to not match up with the quarterbacks that we're seeing right now in terms of throwing the deep ball. I mean, Tyrod Taylor is one exception, but Daniel Jones at the beginning of the season, right? Failure to deliver those deep balls to Jalen Hyatt. I mean, Jalen Hyatt had a breakout game against the Arizona Cardinals, and then we hadn't heard of his name, for weeks since then. So, like I said, a lot of discourse to be had about the weapons available on the trade market upcoming. I know we were all talking about Mike Evans at the beginning of the season because we thought that the Giants were in a position where they could compete and be competitive now and build off of last season. It just doesn't seem like the Giants are anywhere near that level of play right now. So, Rodney, I'm going to let you sound off here. What are your takeaways from this game and about this organization as a whole with 2 weeks left to play in the season?
I mean, top as far as well, one with the Eagles game. Again, this could be you can look at it from one of two scenarios. Either we were playing that well in the second half, or the Eagles aren't really that good of a team. And I seen and this isn't an Eagles podcast, of course, but the Eagles have not been playing good football for pretty much the whole entire season. All right.
Facts.
I'm not taking anything away from them. It's a very good football team, but it's not the same team from last season. We had a very good opportunity to win this game. And if a couple plays went our way, if a couple calls went our way from the refs, then we could be having a different conversation here about, Eagles beating us and we beating the Eagles. I think this team, they have to look at it from the top down. And this can also go into the conversation with about Brian Dable and the coaching staff. They got to take a look at this team from the top down and see where it's one thing where us on Twitter and us on YouTube can say, okay, well, this needs to be fixed and that needs to be fixed. But what are they seeing that we're not seeing? What are they evaluating that we obviously aren't evaluating? The team as a whole, has it gotten better from over the years? Yes. But there's still holes there that from our eyes as fans aren't being addressed. And they haven't been addressed for as long as I've been a fan, you know, going back to, Eli when he was playing, it was always a situation and always will be. And I would always keep bringing it up no matter what. That offensive line, and I don't care who the hell you got back there, it's not going to work. You see every other team and what they can do. Now, it's not to say that that's the end all be all and that's the one glaring need. No, I think they just need to take a look at this team from the top down, evaluate every single position. Every single position. Do we need to upgrade at this position? What type of player do we need to get in here? The culture is there. Okay? The culture is there. And I like what Brian Dable has done as far as getting this team to play together. Now, is it a disappointment from last season to this season? But of course, nobody saw this at all. For us to be able to compete on a high level and compete against these good teams, we have to see consistency, and we haven't really seen consistency at all. Not from the quarterback position, not from the offensive line position. Defense, defense as a whole is improved. So I'm not going to sit there and say that we haven't seen consistency. There's things that need to get fixed. Missed tackles, um, blown coverages at some point. Those things can be fixed with coaching, with those guys playing together consistently, staying healthy, playing consistently. As far as the offense is concerned, it's top down. You have to just take a look at what we have and go from there. With the Darren Waller thing, I was very happy that we did pick him up. I do think that as far as his contract is concerned, I'm not 100% sure, but where his contract is concerned, the bulk of his money was paid this season. So I don't think we have too much going into, to at least 1 or 2 seasons after 2024 and 2025, if we even decide to keep him that long. So I think it's a win-win if we bring him back, maybe it's cost effective and we can, give him the boot, if you want to say, in 2025. But again, I just see that there's so many things that can be done with this team. Look at what Kansas City did. They went to the Super Bowl, they lost against Tom Brady. Why? Because the offensive line was bad. And we saw exactly what a good quarterback looks like behind a very bad offensive line. What did they do? In one offseason, they were able to fix that offensive line. Now, fast forward to this season, the offensive line is not that good, but there's other contributing factors to that. This offensive line has been continuously bad. Okay? Continuously bad. One or two things has to either be looked at: the players that you're bringing in, the development of these players, and the coaching staff. Something needs to be addressed somehow, some way. You're not you're holding on to guys that I don't think really needs to be on this team anymore. Matt Pert doesn't need to
Yep.
be on this team anymore. Shane Lemieux does not need to be on this team anymore.
Mark Lewinsky.
Mark Lewinsky doesn't need to be on this team anymore. You have guys that you drafted, third round picks. Josh Azudu, I think he was he was a third round pick.
Yeah.
Marcus McKethan, I think he was a fourth or fifth round pick. Why aren't these guys developing? Why aren't these? I mean, there's a disconnect somewhere. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a big disconnect.
Go
And
throw
somehow,
money at
some
Hank
way,
Fraley.
and and the thing is, you just can't throw money at the problem without expecting big results. You threw money at Mark Lewinsky and look at the results. You got to be able to go out there and evaluate the talent, whether it be in free agency or scouting for the upcoming draft. I know they have a better draft scouting department than what they have had. But what are these guys seeing? Because again, you still bring the guys in. Everything we hear
Yeah.
about training camp, it was a good training camp. Everything's good. Preseason, everything is good. And as soon as that regular season hits, boom. It's like they hit a
Yeah.
brick wall. So
Yeah. I couldn't have
With
said it better myself.
Waller, he has a potential out in 2024, 7.8 in dead cap, but it looks like he's signed with us till 2027 with
Oh,
however
is
that
that
contract is.
who has the out? Is it a player option or is it a club option?
It just says potential out 2 year
Oh, I see.
23.7.
Okay, you're looking on Spotrac. Yeah, I got to
Yeah,
check the parameters surrounding that. Anyways,
yeah,
I think he's gonna be under control. I don't. I think they're gonna trade him if anything.
yeah.
I got to see the parameters surrounding that though. Um, yeah, go ahead. Do you want to say something about Darren Waller?
No, no, no. I was just something else, but you're good.
Okay. Well, I'll let you say that. I just want to run through some comments here. We got Stevie Mack in the chat. Shout out Stevie. The seams are starting to rip apart for the Eagles, which is absolutely wonderful. Completely agree with you. Let's see right here. Yep, right here. And I hate to say this right now because it's not the era I grew up in, but or
Absolutely.
how he played. But losing is winning right now. And I know Rodney, you have your opinions about that. But honestly, I'm kind of with Miz right now in the last 2 weeks. Like losing might be winning right now, but it's not part of Giants culture. And I mean, you can't argue in the past decade. I mean, it might have, it might be with the way that this organization's been going, but we'll reserve our judgments on that here in terms of, that after the season. They're saying he's tired of losing. Let's stop the misery and get back to greatness. Would love nothing more than that. And then let's see. Chris put in here a comment here. He put the wrong emoji, which I appreciate. The heart emoji's on fire, Chris. But anyways, the edge free agent class is absolutely fire. I had that
Yes.
propped up on here. Danielle Hunter. You got Zadarius Smith. You got Yannick. I know he's on the IR, but he's going to be coming back into free agency. Chase Young, Leonard Floyd,
Patrick
Josh
Queen.
Allen from Jacksonville, Derek Barnett, or Brandon Graham, um,
Old.
Brian Burns,
Oof.
Dante Fowler, Bud Dupree. I think his time's a little bit past him, but Bud
Yeah, he's
Dupree's
done.
on there. Dude, a lot of guys, man. A lot of guys
Great. Good
that are
linebackers too.
on. Yeah, a lot of linebackers too. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. That's going to be interesting to see how the Giants play free agency.
Well,
Let's see here.
we
We
have
got
36.7 mil in cap, but if we cut Darius Slayton, Glowinski, Aaron Robinson, which I haven't seen like 2 years, Boogie Basham and Gary Brightwell, we'll bump that up to 52 mil.
Ooh,
So
I
if
don't
I'm
see
not,
Darius Slayton being cut though. I
no,
don't see
I don't see
Darius
that.
Slayton being cut.
If I'm Joe
Yeah,
Shane though, you got to cut everything Dave Gettleman. I don't, you know what I mean? Like whoever's there that's been there, you just
sure.
cut that whole slab off and just start. Because we've said it too. Joe Shane era will start next year. This is finally Joe Shane's era. Dave Gettleman destroyed this Giants team for 5 years, didn't do anything. And with the Hank Fraley, he's the Detroit offensive line coach, and look what they're doing. And they were doing the same thing as us, drafting no lineman, Penny Sewell. They got Taylor Decker and people like that, and they're dominating right now.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, and Chris is right. O'Shane was released, so he's no longer here. I know our guy Zane Belt guy was really happy about that. So no more O'Shane Zimenez. Let's see here. Chris says good QB play mitigates bad O-line play. Still, this is a both and situation where we have to get both of these right. Absolutely. Fix pronto.
Can I chime in
Yes,
on
we
that?
are going to talk about this. Yeah, talk about that real quick before we get into this.
I get what you're saying, Darius. Good QB play mitigates bad O play. I get that. But you're forgetting the consistency and the continuity of the team where that's concerned. Let's take a look at, and I'll bring them up, San Fran. Okay. Now, last night not last night. I'm sorry, Monday night they played a horrible game. Baltimore got after them. But other than that, that's pretty much the only game that I can really remember dating back to last season that I actually saw where the 49ers couldn't even their drop back pass. They were literally in every aspect, they were halted from doing what they wanted to do. In every aspect. Now, mind you, San Fran is not a team that's built to play from behind. They're built to play from in front. The reason why they got McCaffrey and Debo and Kittles is because if they could put up the points, now you got to fight back. All they got to do is pretty much do. They can count on McCaffrey to keep running the ball and play action pass. That's their bread and butter right there. You make San Fran do play drop back pass, and you can get after them. It's one of those things where it's hit or miss. But you have to have consistency on that old line to be able to run the ball effectively, pass protect effectively, to be able to give your quarterback time. I don't care what type of quarterback you have. You can have the worst quarterback back there, but you got to give him time. Now, I'm not talking about 4, 5, 6 seconds because that's not always realistic unless he's scrambling to gain those extra 3, 4 seconds. I'm talking about a legitimate 2, 3, 4 second drop back to be able to give those receivers the opportunity to get open. That's what I'm referring to. That's what I'm talking about. Consistent all-line play. Consistently. And I mean, again, it's not going to happen on every play. But I'm talking about whereas our quarterbacks, as soon as he drops back 2 steps, there's 8 guys literally rushing him. Literally. That's not good offensive line play. And I don't care what type of quarterback you have. No quarterback is going to succeed in that. No one. You can run the list down and say, well, Jalen Hurts this and Patrick Mahomes. Okay, they're a rare breed, but you still need a good offensive line. You still need a good one. So again, I'm not saying that a good quarterback doesn't mitigate that. By all means, he does. But to keep that quarterback upright, one, to keep that quarterback healthy, so you can
Yep.
have longevity in that position, you have to get that line solidified. It starts in the trenches. Always has, always will be.
Yep.
That's
And you
my
see,
that's my take on that.
yeah, I mean, you see how Detroit built their O-line too from the ground up, right? That took a couple years. Shout out our guy from Sunny Days Media, Sunny Days in Detroit. And congrats to them though. They clinched their first NFC North in since 1990 something. So shout out them. I
93.
know they're celebrating hard.
93, 30
93, right?
years.
Yep. And that O-line is pretty decent, right? And they built that from the ground up. And you even take a look at the Chiefs this year as well. I get that, they've had really good success over the last, few years under Patrick Mahomes, but even now that O-line is taking a toll on Patrick Mahomes, and we see that getting to him, right? And even a quarterback of that magnitude, it gets to him. So absolutely. It is a give or take kind of thing. And Rodney, you are right. And Darius, you are right too. I firmly do believe that under certain circumstances, good QB play mitigates bad O-line play. But Rodney, I think, is also the consistency. He just said the consistency. That's been the issue for the Giants moving forward. And it's expected, it's to be expected that this Giants offense is still trying to, well, I should say they've been trying to build a good O-line for the better half of a decade, but like it shouldn't take that long. But like you said, Aaron, is a great point. Like next year is really the Daboll and Shane era, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But I can't do a Giants
Uh,
Eagles recap without talking
yeah.
about these damn refs. I can't do it. I can't do it. Shout out Chris. Are we going to bring up the BS calls on JMS, Bobby O, and that no call against Wandale? And even the one on the last play of the game where Terod threw the int. I mean, Saquon getting pushed out of bounds when the ball is midair. That's absolutely ridiculous within itself. But absolute bogusness. I mean, JMS with the head bob movement, that is a football play. There was no abruptness there. That was absolutely ridiculous. He was fuming and he had every right to be. Even Dean Blandino went on, and when he was brought up saying, I didn't really see anything abrupt about that. That was just normal football movement. Bobby O, how many times do we see delay a game penalties get called in this damn league? The Giants pretty much lost. I forgot what game it was earlier this season. They were getting that done to them when they had time ran out on them in the first half and the clock ran out. And everyone's like, what the hell is this clock management? But people were laying on top. Do you guys remember that game? What game is that? Can you guys help me?
I'm trying
I
to
think
think.
that
So,
was
Was
it
that
wasn't
Buffalo? That was Buffalo. That was
yeah,
Buffalo.
that was
yes.
It was
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Yeah, that was Buffalo. And that should have been a delay game. That was even more blatant than what Bobby O did in this damn game. Ridiculous. And then that no call on Wandale. I mean, the ref's right there. There's no excuse for that. So this is bogus, man. This is bogus. I
And the
mean,
ref holding
this
the
is not
ball.
the
We had 10 seconds left. Darren Waller literally
yeah
gave it to the ref,
to him.
and
Yeah.
the guy's just standing there like
Yep.
this.
I'm not going to say this is the reason why the refs lost the game. I hope that's not what anybody watching this
Oh,
takes
nah.
away from this point. But like when we see that on a consistent basis over the course of the four quarters, like you just have to call it out because it's just laughable at that point. And I expected nothing less. I expected nothing less. The NFL officiating has been horrible for years now, right? And they've been inconsistent for years. Even going back to replay in New York, you wonder sometimes what they're looking at. Like you have replay centers for a reason, but you still can't get the correct call sometimes. It's beyond me, and it needs to change. And I don't foresee it changing anytime soon. We got NYG31 in the house. What up, guys? Appreciate you tuning into the stream. What's up to you? Shout out to you. Stevie's saying the refs have been absolutely awful this year. They're getting worse year by year at this point. Yep, Stevie, you're absolutely right.
A lot of
You're absolutely right.
Tim Donaghy's in the NFL with betting legal.
Absolutely. So let's move on to our last topic of tonight and talking about Brian Dable and this coaching staff. And I put in the special teams coach Thomas McGahee because it just seems like this special teams unit has been awful for so long already. And you saw it at the beginning of the game. Giants go 3-and-out, just as we all suspected to start the game. And what happens? I mean, the Eagles, quite literally, outside of Jamie Gillian playing hurt, like Jamie Gillian has had a good season this season, right? He's got a solid season, and he's playing hurt, and he's booting 30-yard punts down the field. And so he punted. His very first punt of the game was to midfield, and whoever that Eagles returner is pretty shifty. I'll give him that. But the Eagles on their very first drive get set up within the 15-yard line. Absolutely unacceptable. Missed assignments. Dane Belton taking a horrible route on one of those attempted tackles on that very play that I'm talking about. It's just absolute horrible, horrible play on multifacets of this team. Special teams, O-line, and you can argue outside of the success that maybe Dexter Lawrence has had on the D-line, there hasn't been consistency on the D-line, wide receivers. I mean, all around, there's a lot to question about this coaching staff, which all gets brought back at the end of the day to Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen in this regime, because they have direct control on who stays and who goes within the lower level coaching staff. So, Aaron, accepting and realizing what you said about this being the last year, or the last year that we will cut Daboll and Joe Schoen slack, given that we are transitioning now in terms of the roster personnel over from a Dave Gettleman type of mixed team over to this newly solidified regime. Obviously, they took a step back. They overachieved last season. Let's just call a spade a spade. They overachieved last season for what the roster entailed and how it was constructed. I mean, we had Richie James, for crying out loud. Now, Richie James was solid. He was solid, but he was probably one of our better receivers outside of maybe Isaiah Hodgins last season.
Yeah.
And that's pretty sad.
Scary.
So they overachieved. They took advantage of a team that had Swiss cheese defense in Minnesota to win a playoff game. And Daniel Jones played absolutely out of his mind last season, right? With the help of said play callers, whether it's Kafka or Dable. But when you look at these tiers of coaches, talk about Andre Patterson on the defensive line, Mike Grove for the wide receivers, Thomas McGahee for special teams. The list goes on and on and on, right? I mean, Bobby Johnson for the O-line, can't forget him. Where are we at? Are we going to see a fluttering of movements? Because it feels like to me that there should have already been some firings with Brian Daboll taking some heat. Maybe that might be a little bit of a coward way to go about it and sort of deflect that attention in terms of, taking that off of Brian Daboll and just firing someone within the season. But it gets to a point where enough's enough, right? It gets to a point where enough's enough. But on the flip side of that, you have Bobby Johnson, who came over with these guys with that Buffalo connection. That's something to be said for as well. And everybody wanted him out of Buffalo as well. That is a known fact. You talk to most Buffalo fans, they know the name Bobby Johnson, and they shudder at the sight of hearing it. So where do you assess it? What side of the fence? Because there is a fence starting to be developed, and there's people taking both sides of the fence. And I can't fathom in my mind letting a guy like Brian Daboll go. And I think that's already out of the question. I think we all know that he's going to be the coach next season of this team, as he very well should be. But what side of the fence are you taking? Aaron, I'm going to let you start off with this one.
Well, first, I definitely agree with Chris right here. Bobby Johnson isn't fired, we riot. Absolutely. I mean, one of the guys that was with Bobby Johnson, John Feliciano, is having one of his best years. And he's not playing center for the Niners. He's playing guard. Yep. I mean, Thomas McGahee, yes, he survived all this time. Whether it's been Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, this and that. Maybe, I mean, he needs to go, but maybe we get like a Terry Robisky. Maybe bring him in the specials. He's definitely an aggressive special teams coach, and he definitely doesn't take any doesn't take any shit from anybody. You can watch any Hard Knocks when he was with the Falcons. He does not take it, especially, I don't care. He doesn't care if you're a first round pick, second round pick, third round pick. He does not care as long as you need to get the job done. I think we need to get him. Al Grove, I'll give him another year because he really wasn't bad. I think he was with Indianapolis before he came to us. I would keep him. But again, like we just said
Micro?
earlier,
I think you mean micro. I think it's
yeah,
micro,
sorry, I'm
right?
thinking
Yeah.
of the other girl. I think like I said, we should go get after the Detroit offensive line coach, or again the former Patriots offensive line coach, because something needs to give. And I think I've seen a lot of Giants Twitter. They're always saying like, yes, you can draft all these guys, but if you don't have the coach to mold them or get the consistency, it doesn't mean anything. So I definitely agree with that. Do you think Steve Belichick could be a special teams coach as well? I mean, we all know Bill Belichick's out of here. Who doesn't like to see that smile? No, I can't. But yeah, no, there has to be some shakeups. I said, I think it was 2 episodes ago, that Ken Dorsey in some fashion is coming to the Giants. I don't know what he's doing. He could be the quarterback coach, could be the new offensive coordinator. I don't know. He is definitely coming. He's a Brian Dable guy, and he loves him. But he's somehow, some way, he's coming.
Go ahead, Rodney. Let me sound off on this coaching staff.
Where should I start?
Everywhere.
Mike Kafka. I'll start here. Mike Kafka. I'm not advocating for him to go, but I think somehow, some way, the play calling from last season to this season. Ugh. Oh wow, we really do have.
He's smoking on that Giants pack.
In here. Get out
Rose
of here.
Gold 30 in the house.
Rose Gold 30.
Mike Kafka, I don't know. It just, maybe Brian Dable needs to take over play calling somehow, some way. I'm not entirely sure with that, because the play calling has been off this season. For some reason, it's been off. I mean, you're calling run plays when damn near every team knows that you get down to 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Who are you giving the ball to? You're going to give it to Saquon Barkley. No, there's nothing special about that. There's nothing special about it. Everybody knows that. What are you going to do? Oh, wow. Everybody knows that you're going to give it to Saquon Barkley 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Everybody knows that. You're not surprising anybody with that. If he doesn't get better in play calling, or he leaves for a head coaching job, or whatever the case may be, it is what it is. But as far as I'm concerned, get rid of Bobby Johnson, get rid of McGahee, and at this point, go out there and find someone who is seasoned and knows what they're doing where these position coaches are concerned. Why is it that Tyree Phillips went to the Eagles for what? I don't know, like a week or two, something or the other, and his play got better. Not saying he's the best right tackle, but it got a little bit better. And he was literally talking about how the coaching is significantly different than what's going on here in under the Giants. Significantly different. You got to get back to fundamentals here, gentlemen. Got to get back to fundamentals. Coaching. Get someone in here who knows what the hell they're doing, and get these guys coached up the way it's supposed to be. Special teams, come on now. I mean, this is year after year of people I'm seeing on Twitter and even YouTube complaining about special teams. God, shit, they were complaining when Joe Judge was here, and he was a special teams coordinator, and it stunk.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
Okay, so get some. I think they really need to just, like I said, from the top down, take a step back and really analyze this team and figure out what direction we're headed. Who can we bring in here to get us into, help us get to that, help us in that direction. That's what needs to get done. So,
yep.
Johnson, gone. McGahee, gone. I don't know too much about Ken Dorsey, to be perfectly honest with you. If he was able to get Josh Allen to play the way Josh Allen has been playing, then I would say yes. Bring him in, QB coach, get to work on Daniel Jones. Help this kid out. Or better yet, help out Tommy DeVito and whatever quarterback we draft at this point. But get someone in here that knows what they're doing in all aspects of the game. And above all, coaching matters again, gentlemen. I think Darius Smith said it. Yes, coaching does matter. And we can't keep throwing draft capital at the same position over and over and over again, thinking that's going to fix it. And we already know that the bottom line is if you're not coaching these guys and developing them, it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So what is it? And here's even another caveat to that as well. You have guys that leave the Giants and then go and succeed elsewhere.
Yep.
There's something to be
Sounds
said
like
of
the
that.
Mets.
And I mean, not to throw good to the Eagles, but with Rose Gold dirty. But look at Jalen Hurts this year. He lost his offensive coordinator in his stitch. He has was it Brad Johnson, whatever his name is, and he's not doing as great.
Yeah,
coaching definitely.
That's one thing that I was gonna point out in the takeaways too. Jalen Hurts did not look great in that game,
No.
at all. He looked dysfunctional. He didn't look on the same page, whether it's his fault or his receiver's fault, but they definitely were on the same page. There was visible frustration there between him and AJ Brown as well. So all takeaways there that we missed, but absolutely. Like I said, I don't really want to talk about that team because they are still, the record says what they are and all that, but we got our own issues to sort of talk about here. But yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you there. Now, I think it was very evident to see Bobby Johnson implementing that little merry-go-round of linemen in terms of, taking snaps in training camp or preseason under different positions instead of having a solidified line unit. The versatility, I guess, is good, but if you can't even get a guy to be great at one position, what's the use of trying him out at another position, right? If that's not don't force it, right? If you think he's a better fit there, fine, but don't flip flop him. And there's no merry-go-round that needs to be happening here when you talk about the rotating of guards that was happening. That kind of irked me. So there is a real concern for Evan Neal moving forward. Obviously, he's been shut down ever since you saw us here last live. He's been shut down, I believe, for the rest of the season. And
Yep.
year 2 was another bust for Evan Neal. So we'll see if he takes that year 3 leap a la Andrew Thomas. But with the way that it's looking right now, it's looking like a pipe dream. So we'll monitor Evan Neal's situation. But one coach that we did not mention here and has been probably the most controversial coach has been Wink Martindale, Mr. Blitzman himself. Now, I believe the Giants blitzed the Eagles on over 70% of the plays this past Monday on this Christmas game. And, it worked. It flustered Jalen Hurts for the most part. There were a couple of plays where I feel like the Giants should have sat back and played that cover 3D, but they sent the blitz again. And maybe it burned them, right? I mean, we could talk about the game rewind and some specific plays there, but for the most part, it looked like they had Jalen Hurts flustered with the blitz. And also just for the simple fact that he was not on the same page with the receivers, that definitely helped, right? Wink Martindale, man. I mean, I would love to see Wink Martindale back. I'm just very uneasy that we're going to see that happen. I mean, I think the media is playing up the rift between him and Dable. I think the media is playing that up a little bit more than it is. But I'm honestly getting a sense of I'm getting a disheartening sense surrounding Wink Martindale returning next season for one reason or another. And I'm not quite sure what the fact of that matter is. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what the answer is to that. Not even sure about who would replace him immediately off the top of my head. So I'm not sure if you all have any takes on that, but that's my last point before we get out of here is the uncertainty surrounding Wink Martindale. So whoever wants to chime in on that can certainly feel free to do so.
I mean, the only thing I'll say about that was with the blitzes is that we couldn't stop a 3rd and 2. He got the first out. What was it, like an extra 10 yards, and we couldn't stop a 3rd and 20. And we're blitzing so much. So I still think we should keep him. I said it earlier in the show, and I think once we get his guys, I think if we get Leonard Floyd, Patrick Queen, we get some more of a Wink Martindale type players, I think it'll come into fruition. But I mean, New York media just they need to go somewhere. They really do. I get it's the Big Apple. You criticizing players, but even coaches. But it's just annoying because they have no idea what they're talking about, and they're not in the room with all these coaches and players and stuff. So they need to kick rocks.
You know what? I'll second that. I don't think. Well, Darius, you're right. He is coming back. That's what I'm going to say. Wink is coming back.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, this defense has been playing awfully well, despite the bad tackling.
Yeah.
We got a lot of players on this team, defense included. I mean, offense, defense. We got a lot of players that really aren't contributing. Aaron Robinson, not contributing. Darnay Holmes, barely contributing, and when he does, it's horrible. All right,
Cordell Flott
Cordell Flott. I
last like
think
2
that
3 weeks.
honestly, I think he needs more reps. He needs more reps. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But why are we going to go through this whole dog and pony show with going and getting rid of Wink, bringing in some other guy, teaching, showing them and implementing a whole new defensive scheme, and now we got to see whether or not these guys are going to take to that because they're so used to Wink's scheme. First off, Wink's scheme is predicated on creating pressure. Oh, I'm sorry, manufacturing pressure from different positions. It's not predicated on just the edge rushers getting home. The problem is that we only really have one edge rusher that gets home. So if we have another premier edge rusher on the side, maybe that mitigates the fact of him having to blitz all the time. Maybe he can
Sure.
sit back in a cover 2, Tampa 2, cover 3. Somehow, some way, you get the right guys in here, get them coached up, get them used to the system. You keep Wink you have to keep him. Now, I get the whole thing where him and Brian Dable's not getting along. Who cares? Okay, like seriously,
Yeah.
who cares? You're
Yep.
telling me that every coaching staff gets along with one another? Bullshit.
Buddy Ryan and Mike Dickover did not like each other at all.
There you go. Okay, come on now. There's going to be things that Wink does that Brian Dable is going to literally, if he had hair, pull his hair out. Okay, literally. But Wink is who he is. Wink is going to come at you on damn near every play and is going to pretty much dictate to you as what this game is going to be. I'm going to blitz your ass. I'm going to continuously keep coming after you. Beat me. I'm daring you to beat me. Does it happen? Of course. It happened in Baltimore. Bring Wink back. Get him his guys, and let's see what this defense can be. And as far as everybody else concerned, Brian Dable, I've even seen chatter as far as Brian Dable needs to go. We're going to get rid of another coach after 2 seasons again? What are we doing here? Again, keyword consistency. Consistency. It's not helping anything. You got rid of 2 coaches. Look what happened with Daniel Jones. Now, I'm not saying some of it is not his fault, but come on now. You got a rotating carousel of coaches coming in and out. Does not help the cohesiveness of a team at all. So let these guys do exactly what they're supposed to do. And you're right, Aaron. This is actually where we can actually start grading Dable and Shane at this point, because now you're fully getting your guys in. Let's see what you can implement at this point. This is your draft now.
Yep.
A lot of those guys, Dable's guy, I'm sorry, Gettleman's guys are being weeded out. So it's becoming your team, not someone else's team, not half. This is becoming your team. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah. And Darius is saying we got our safeties, we got our linebackers for the most part. We just got to solidify the trenches and then we're good. I believe the makeup of this defense has certainly come a long way, and the core foundational pieces of this defense certainly plays well for adding on to it and solidifying that unit. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but someone said that Wink Martindale, I'm not sure if you all can confirm this or not, Did Wing Martindale say that the defense needs to play extra well because the offense isn't going to help you out? Is that what
Pretty
he
much.
said?
Yeah. And he's not wrong. I
He's
think
not wrong at all, but that's hilarious.
yeah, like I think it was the Packers game. Defense was like showing up, but the offense wasn't. It was, or maybe it wasn't the Packers. I don't remember, but it was definitely one of those. But I mean, people forget too. Bill Sheridan was a defensive coordinator for us. You want a guy like Bill Sheridan next year? No, I certainly
Yeah,
don't.
man.
I don't want a guy like that.
No, I mean, but everyone's right. Darius is right. Chris is right. I mean, we need another edge rusher. We're gonna need another pass rusher. Kayvon was. We haven't talked about him at all this podcast for a reason because he didn't do much, right? He's got what 12 and a half, 13 sacks on the season. He's had a great season, I'll say. But there are games. This has been a Kayvon talking point for a while now. There are games where his production and his performance is one to where you're not going to talk about him because he's just going to be a non-factor. And then he'll light it up a couple games later. So that is something to be said. And outside of Kayvon, because I completely forgot, we had 2 first-round picks in that draft. I was like, who's the last edge rusher the Giants took in the first round anyways? And it's Jason Pierre-Paul in 2010. So, yeah, though, like I said, position group, you can either, go through and address in the draft. A couple guys out there we'll be looking at in terms of draft talk after the season's done. But the edge rush class in the free agent market is definitely one that plays as well. So that's all I have. Rodney and Aaron, I appreciate it. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you all are hitting that subscribe button to everyone's channels down in the description. Even Chris from Hit Squad, make sure you subscribe to his channel if you haven't already, and hit that thumbs up on the stream. Whichever stream you're watching, hit that thumbs up. I definitely appreciate it. Follow the guys up on this panel. The Feeling Blue podcast is certainly something that's been really fun to do with you all and with Chris from Hit Squad as well. Rodney, last words, and Aaron, last words before we get out of here.
Oh boy. Well, it's been a hell of a season. Some more lows than highs. Shout out to Lynn Sanity. No, I'm sorry, DeVito Sanity for those 3-4 games that we had it. But other than that, we're Giants fans. Okay, we're gonna have our ups and downs. Let's pray and hope that at some point we'll be able to smile after every single game. So, Big Blue always.
Absolutely.
Yep. And shout out to Saquon Barkley. This is the second nice post I'm going to say about him. He actually passed Brandon Jacobs for 4th all time in rushing yards. So shout out that. I don't think he passed Tiki Barber yet in the receiving, but he definitely passed Brandon. Also, too, follow all of our accounts on, subscribe on YouTube. All that, we have great content for everybody. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Have a great new year, and yeah, go Giants.
Absolutely. Let's go Giants. I appreciate you all tuning in to another episode of the Feeling Blue podcast. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you, Aaron, so much. I appreciate it. Until next time. Peace.